Hey guys, so today I am working on a video. It will be sort of interview style. I will have a bunch of different guests on talking about their rank 4s and how it has affected both their war planning process and the fight process for Alliance War. You know, super excited about this video. It has been a ton of work to create, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. Be sure to check out everyone's channel in the description that was involved in making this video. It has been an awesome video with a bunch of super knowledgeable players and war planners, and yeah, hope you guys enjoy the video. So for the first segment, I will be talking about my own R4 Nick Fury, and I have been planning in SSx's Battle Group 2, so first off, let's discuss how it has affected the war planning process. So Nick Fury for the R4 tends to be more of a problem solver in the planning process. You know, Nick Fury, I mean, in general, he's definitely a very good general clearer for most content, but for war specifically, Nick Fury tends to be more of a problem solver. You know, he takes only a couple fights of war, you know, maybe one or two. You know, on occasion, he'll get some pretty big wars. But in general, he's like a one or two difficult fights of war kind of guy. And yeah, this tends to be really, really helpful in war planning. Just having a champion who's able to really comfortably take these extremely difficult fights is very, very important, you know. And on the topic of these difficult fights, since that's what Nick Fury tends to do in war, one of the big ones in recent has been 53 Chavez. This has become a super common placement, and as you guys have seen from my war videos, and if you haven't, I'll explain the fight right now, but due to the damage over time being the main source of damage, the damage back kind of doesn't matter with Nick Fury. Like, it matters, but it's like a potion, basically. And this just allows him to really ignore the special 3 effects. And if you are able to bait special 3s from Chavez, this removes all of the risk from her special 1 and her special 2, which tends to be how you can get into a bad situation when fighting Chavez. So having someone who can just comfortably bait all 3s without a worry is super important for Chavez on a whole lot of nodes around the map. This is also applicable to Node 2 and Node 16 Chavez. I've taken all 3 of these with Nick Fury, and he has been, in my opinion, the best counter for all 3 of them. And now another one that is a little bit more of a general one, but it's Kitty Pryde around the map. I've taken Kitty Pryde on, 53 now, Power Snack, Vivified, and I have recently taken Kitty Pryde on Intercept now with Nick Fury as well during this off-season, but I hadn't tested that during season yet. And the way Nick Fury works for Kitty Pryde is really just via the safety net. It makes it so if you are comfortable fighting Kitty Pryde in general, you have a really safe method to do it, with Nick Fury having the high damage and the high safety net, just making him a really good option for general fights. And this makes it so if Kitty Pryde does get to her 10 prowess margin, where she can start incinerating you through the block on her L1, or she can go unblockable via her L2, it allows you to really comfortably survive both of these, worst case scenarios with Kitty Pryde. And for a third of these problem fights, it's a super common boss from last season with high ground, and that's Green Goblin. And the R4 on Fury, what it really does here is it allows you to, 1, end the fight quicker, because during high ground, the longer a fight goes on, the more high ground that's going to stack up. And, being able to end it quicker will just allow for less high ground, of course. And now, for the third section, there is one fight last season I had where the R4 made a significant difference. Partially due to just how well I played last season, it didn't impact as many fights as, maybe it generally would. So, for this fight, it was a Green Goblin boss, where I just miscounted high ground at the start of the fight, and then after you do that on a Green Goblin boss, it is effectively impossible to really get the fight back under control in terms of high grounds. And the R4 allowing you to just have such good damage and having so much more health. And the block proficiency is noticeable, there's a good block proficiency boost, and the combat power rate is also very noticeable against a fight like Green Goblin. It will give you some more L1s, which will help keep control of high grounds. And yeah, I ended on 22% in my second life, and I'm confident that I would have died if that was an R3 Nick Fury. And yeah. And for the final phase of this questioning thing, are you happy with your R4 decision? And for me, it's a very clear yes. He's really just been a fantastic R4 that has filled my expectations and hopes for him in terms of simplifying planning, which is the main reason, and it has just far surpassed what I really expected out of Nick Fury this last season. Has been very eye-opening in terms of a lot of these matchups I didn't really expect him to be so good for. And yeah, the R4 Nick Fury has just been awesome. Alright, so hey guys, today we have BMcG over in 4 Loki on for this R4 discussion video. He has an R4 Overseer that he's been using in Alliance War a lot this season, and he makes a variety of war videos and other MCOC videos, so I will leave a link to his channel in the description below this time code for this segment. So the first question I have for you is, how has the R4 Overseer impacted your war planning process?
So Karate Mike and Steve is his name. They're my officers, and Steve is, not Steve, Karate Mike uses Spider-Man 2099 in most of his wars. I think he's only used them, or I think he didn't use them only in one war because he was banned. But Mike uses his Spider-Man 2099 with anti-venom with the for the Wither at the start of the fight. So we normally send him on path 7 now. When he used to just deal with annoying mystics who like nullify, like Man-Thing for example. And that's where I come in now, because with my rank 4 Overseer, I can take annoying fights like Sorcerer. Her Nullify aura will ramp up Overseer because she can't nullify him. Man-Thing, same thing. Then there's also nodes like Buffet, Power Snack that I can go on that will ramp Overseer up even more. I went up path 1 in section 2 5 times with Overseer, and I faced champs like Bishop, Guardian, Man-Thing, Domino, and another Overseer. I actually, when I took Bishop, he only threw one special, and that was only a special 2, but I pretty much stun-locked him the whole time because I was able to ramp up full Gamma power before either of us got a bar of power, so I was able to fully ramp and nuke him down. So he's definitely helped with the planning process and really opens up options for other guys. But with that being said, I take fewer fights because I'm more of a specialized person, if that makes sense.
Yep. Alright, for my next question, what are some of these main problem or specialized fights for Overseer that you guys have been finding Overseer helps a lot for?
So Buffet, like I said, is one of the perfect fights for him, because when the opponent tries to nullify, if Overseer's awakened, which mine is, he'll gain a gamma power when the opponent's ability fails. So with how Buffet works right now, if I dex, that is a buff trigger, and that will fail to nullify. And then if I hit them, that will also fail and nullify for some reason. That's how dex works. So I'm able to fully ramp in 3 hits, which makes him like a top option for Buffet. You could also do it on Power Snack. I've taken 2 Power Snack Dr. Dooms this season. And then I also took a Maw boss when Spider-Man 2099 was banned. So, yeah, in certain situations, he's like a top option. And really annoying mystics or like I-Bomb, certain characters who just like to poison you or whatever, he's pretty much a perfect option for those characters.
Alright. Are there any fights where you've noticed the R4 has made a significant difference, whether, that might have been life or death, or just keeping it a lot more smooth and not getting any sketch at all?
So, personally, my 2 times against Dr. Doom on Power Snack, I got very close to dying, and it's just because I was not playing the greatest, and the extra stats in the health category saved my bacon. But the R4 really doesn't matter too much if we're being honest in certain fights. Like the war that I took an Ebony Maw boss, I have a rank 4, so I was max boosted taking the Maw boss. And then Vega in BG3, he was taking a Maw boss with his rank 3 Overseer, but he runs full suicides. So his suicides plus boosts, and then my rank 4 plus my boost, he was doing more damage than me. So that's an interesting thing to look at. But I think the rank 4 health has definitely helped a lot in certain fights, just making sure I have that extra bit of wiggle room to deal with.
All right, yep. And for the final question, are you happy with your R4 decision?
I'm extremely happy. He was probably my top option other than like Hercules. He's got really high prestige. He's going to be top prestige for a while now. He benefits from each sig. I don't really like sigging up characters like Doom who don't really need their sig. I'm going to do it eventually because Doom is Doom, but Overseer benefits from each sig, and he gets a really solid benefit from the rank, I think, because with this whole cosmic mode or whatever, the physical burst damage you do is based off of attack, and if you can increase the attack via the rank, you're just going to deal more damage. So I don't know. I'm really happy with the rank, and I'm looking forward to using him next season.
All right, and you had mentioned you had gathered up some specific fight counts, so if you would like to add that in now.
Yeah, so I took 39 fights this season, and 12 of them were with Overseer. I took one boss, and then I took Path 1 and Section 2 5 times, and then Power Snag Doom twice.
Right.
And he was deathless for me the whole season. So yeah, he's definitely pretty useful.
Alright, thank you, man. Very interesting stuff. Please go check out BMcG's channel. Again, it'll be linked in the description below the time code for this segment, and thank you for coming on, man. Hope you have a
Thanks
great
for
night.
having me, dude.
Hey guys, today we have Bryce from GOMP, or MU8S. He's an officer in GOMP's Battle Group 3, and he has an R4 Kingpin. Very skilled player. He has a YouTube channel with a bunch of great videos showcasing Kingpin and a variety of other champions. So the first question I have for you today is, how has the R4 Kingpin affected your war planning process?
Hey, so first off, I very much appreciate you bringing me on for this. But to answer your question, a lot of times how we end up choosing to plan our wars is we look at the map as a whole and we look at all the problem fights starting off, and we try to figure out the necessary counters for each of those. So when we go in and we start planning, generally I get first grabs at the assignments. If there is, say, a specific boss that ends up being a problem for some of us, chances are I'll end up being assigned it. So one, for example, is last season we saw Spider-Man 99 and Torchband a lot, and we would get a lot of Mojo bosses. And so I actually had been assigned numerous times a Mojo boss using Kingpin by using a hazard chip to my advantage. And they've all gone perfectly. I mean, absolutely great. And so in planning, we know that, okay, so there's, Path 9 is a joke with him, or the new, defective defense, the old encroaching stun node. He works extremely well for those. And so if there's a problem fight on those, then chances are I'm going to be able to take it with him.
All right, yep. So talking about some of these pain points, what are some of these pain points in specific placements that you guys have been noticing the Kingpin has worked really, really well for?
Let's see. I mean, Path 9, of course, I don't consider to be a pain point anymore. There's so many good options for it. But one of the primary ones that I do want to point out again is the former encroaching stun node, and Path 2, actually. The Path 2 shared fight with, at the end of 1 to 3 in Section 1. God, I can't remember the nodes on it off the top of my head. Strike, Counter, Fury, and...
Yeah,
shocking
masochism and
defense.
static
Yeah,
defense.
yeah. So that's an annoying fight depending on who's placed there. So, for example, there was a man thing, and again, Spider-Man 99 was banned, even though he wouldn't really work for it because of static defense. It's an annoying fight in general. But we looked at that, and I said, hey, I'm comfortable taking it. I have a plan to how I'll be able to take that with Kingpin in order to shut off the nodes or be able to use the extra debuffs to my advantage. And it ended up being a very clean solo. And then with the defective defense, each of those debuffs, or each of the disorients, is in fact a debuff. And so I took a Doom there once, and I've taken it a few times now. I can't honestly remember what all of them were, but anyways, he ends up working extremely well for him. And then there's so many different things on Boss Island that I can cover using him, depending on, whenever I'm needed. So a lot of times, if there's a super difficult boss fight or mini boss, I may end up bringing a full synergy team and just taking care of it however I see fit.
Alright, yeah, I'd like to interject and add one more thing I had noticed for Kingpin in my battle group. During high grounds, you could take a boss with high ground up, and then say there was a Nova on 49. Now there's no more high ground for that, and then you can just quake it or whatever, and that helps
Absolutely,
a
and
lot.
we've actually done that on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
And actually also with Ebony Maw on Footloose, Kinetic Transference, we all know that that's not a very fun fight, especially given specific bans. Just sometimes AI doesn't want to cooperate, but if we can get moving fast enough and take down the boss early on in the day, then we can freely quake that fight or bring in another counter, and they don't have to worry about high ground.
Yep. Alright, so for the third question, are there any fights you felt have significantly turned the tide by having that R4 instead of the R3 this season?
Yes, so the primary thing for me is that, yes, we've seen statistically rank 4s don't actually give nearly as much benefit to you as, say, like a 5-star from rank 4 to rank 5. But the additional health makes a huge difference. So we all know that in war sometimes things inevitably mess up, or you slip up, you fail an intercept, or you miss a parry. Something like that is bound to happen. And fully boosted up, I mean, rank 4 Kingpin is sitting at like 88,000 health or something ridiculous. And so I know that I'm fully comfortable. Like, I can be as aggressively as possible whenever I need to be. And I'll be able to regain that health, or I'll have a really good buffer in my favor. So one in particular example was, again, another Mojo boss that I'd taken. And I just got a lot of really bad prompts in a row. And ended up taking quite a bit of degen damage just because it would be like a dash back prompt every time that I would go to, hit back into him. And so my dexterity kept on being converted into degen, which was unfortunate. But the additional health pool is what ended up getting me that win, and the added attack, because everything on Kingpin specifically scales really well with ratings in different ranks. I think each overpower rank 4 is almost 9,000 additional attack. So it ends up letting you hit really hard and being able to, take back any damage and full control over the fight whenever you need to.
Alright, yeah, very, very nice. And for the final question, are you happy with your R4 decision?
I think that it is very obvious that, yes, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of really good stuff for my account, and I mean, you've known me for a little bit. You know how much I enjoy playing him in the first place, how much I used him even before he was a rank 4. So just the additional benefits and how much I use him in war and everything, really helped me. And it feels like a good business.
Alright. Thank you for hopping on call, and all of Bryce's links will be under his time code for this segment. And have a good day, man.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yo, so, for this segment, we have Iron Patriot from Noxus smokes Battle Group 2. He is a war planner, and he used to upload war videos. I will leave a link to his channel in the description. And yeah, for the first question, how has the R4 Doom impacted your war planning process?
So overall, I'd say he's not had like a massive impact on the war plan process, because even at rank 3 he is still capable of taking a huge amount of fights. I'd say overall it's more just being able to take some of the more risky matchups with him safer, and just having that extra security in the fights, especially when you're sort of max boosted. It's pretty difficult to die to him in a lot of matchups, and he can basically take anything that isn't like a direct hard counter to him. So just more versatility in what you can take, pretty much.
Alright. So, what are some main pain points on the map you've been using these R4 Dooms to work around?
So I think there's been a lot of stuff on Node 24 has been taken with the rank 4 Doom. So, for example, Apocalypse on Node 24, rank 3 Doom could take that perfectly fine. However, the rank 4 with the increased combat power rate just makes it a significantly easier fight. And then also just some sort of higher risk matchups, such as on Conflictor. He has been really good at taking, because he's just so tanky and can deal with a lot of problems, even if he's not directly countering it. And overall, the biggest thing with it is probably the combat power rate increase, because it just makes it easier to keep the Doom cycle going, especially in the longer fights.
Alright. And are there any fights where you think the R4 Doom has been like a life or death situation where you would have died with the R3 if you didn't have?
So for me personally, probably not. Last season at least, I didn't really have any close calls with him. However, it is just quite a significant help in terms of just being more confident in the matchup, so it could potentially have a lot of influence there. And I think there are quite a few situations where just the increased combat power rate and the increased base stats will just save you if you are having sort of a rough fight or in a bad matchup.
Yeah. And for the final question, are you happy with the R4 Doom?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the rank 4 Doom.
Alright, that'll be all. Be sure to check out Iron Patriot's channel in the description. It has a lot of amazing war videos. And see you, man. Have a good day. So here for this R4 discussion video, we have Felganos. He is an officer over in GOMP, and he has a R4 Shang that he's able to plan with a lot. He runs the No Skills, No Bills podcast and has a YouTube channel of his own. Be sure to go check this out in the description. We will have links. So the first question is, how has this R4 Shang affected the planning process for you?
Well, you see, one of the things you like to do, especially in the high ground season, is the defense tactic in itself very much, it very much rewards nuke options. And so while Shang-Chi might not be a traditional nuke, having that rank 4, that increased damage from him being at rank 4, means that this tactic of using a power start 1 and just working your way up to an L2 is actually a lot more practical. Now, that wouldn't normally work with Shang-Chi at rank 3, because you actually need to have a few Wushus built up in order to do decent damage, or else it's just going to hit like your basic combo. But as a rank 4, his base attack is high enough that with just a few Wushus that you can get naturally working your way from 1 up to 2 bars, that L2 really does slap hard. And so overall, I've just thought it's been really helpful that I don't really need to, that I can actually use Shang-Chi as a nuke option. I don't have to limit him to only fights where he kind of has time to ramp up or he's able to ramp up. Because Shang-Chi is a very general champion. He can kind of do stuff all around the map. He might not be the best for any one single fight, but he's really good for a lot of them.
Alright, so on the discussion of those fights, what are some of the main pain points you've been sending Shang-Chi out to?
So one of the biggest pain points that I've identified is, It's null placed on section 2, path 4. You'll probably know the node numbers. I'm not good with node numbers, but Yeah, it's the one where if you have 3 or more debuffs on you, he's unblockable. Now, with Null, that can be pretty dangerous, especially in Awakened Null, because of course he's going to be starting the fight with multiple debuffs on you. The higher sig that Null is, the more debuffs you're starting on you're starting with on yourself. And so that means with a high sig Null, that can be a very dangerous fight. Shang-Chi can only purify 3 debuffs every time he uses his Purify Wushu Strike, and a sig 200 Null will start the fight with 15 debuffs on you. Now, when the sig is lower, you're able to just kind of purify all the debuffs and play normally. You can parry again, you can block again. And that makes the fight fine, since, especially Null Special 1, it requires some blocking. I haven't personally seen anybody that's been able to dex Null's L1 yet. Now, conversely, with a rank 4 Shang-Chi, you're actually able to nuke that fight down. Like, one of the clips that the guy who has a rank 4 Shang-Chi, Omega Shenron, one of the clips he sent me, was of him nuking that fight down very, very easily. I think he used a Power Start 1, and what he did was he worked his way up to an L2, just with a few Wushu strikes. He built up a few Wushu charges and launched off that L2, and even with only probably 4, 5, 6 Wushu charges, it did majority of it, or it pretty much got Null down to about 30-20%, something like that. And so from there, since he still had the passive unblockable up for purifying Null's debuffs, he simply used another L2 because he was also running a power back boost. And what it really did for that fight is it meant that he didn't have to deal with any of the really difficult parts of that fight, which are, well, one, you actually have to be blocking L1s, you actually have to be dexing L2s. Null can be a very dangerous opponent on that node, and so being able to just nuke that down in 2 special 2s makes that fight a lot easier to plan for, where otherwise you would really have to be jumping through hoops to get a good counter there.
Alright, I would like to add something in. J-Will over in SSx-1 has a, well, he was in SSx-1. He has a video of R4 Shang-Chi taking this exact Null, and he brought in the Iron Fist synergy. And this Iron Fist synergy, what it does is it gives him 3 Wushu charges at the start of the fight. And with R4 combined with this Iron Fist synergy, it allowed him to just end the fight in a single L2.
In a single L2? I think if you're boosted up high enough, you might be able to end that fight. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, most fights you encounter in Alliance War that aren't like mini bosses or boss nodes, they'll have somewhere between 150 to 200k health, right?
Yep, around 150k for Null. I don't think he has a particularly big health pool.
Yeah. So with 150k health, just from the basic attacks you're going to be using to get yourself up to the L2 from that L1 that you already have starting to fight with from Power Start 1, combined with those extra Wushu strikes, or Wushu charges, I think that could probably end the fight with a single L2 if you're boosted high enough.
Yep, with that Iron Fist synergy that JJ will use in his video, it just ended the L2. And, alright, so on to the third question. What are some fights where you think this R4 has significantly turned the tide? And this is like a case of life and death, where you don't think it would have been a solo if it was an R3.
Actually, that fight I just talked about right there. The Null fight. Our guy barely, no disrespect to him, he played that well given the counter he had and given the boost he had, and he knew what his Shang-Chi was capable of. But if that was a rank 3 Shang-Chi, I can say without a shadow of a doubt he wouldn't have made it out of that fight alive. And the reason I know that is because I took that very same fight with a rank 3 Shang-Chi, and I had to completely change up the strategy, because I knew if I had done what he did, I would have died. Now, with that second L2 he launched off while he was still unblockable, he only barely killed Null. And that's obviously because his second L2 has no Wushu strikes behind it, or has no Wushu charges behind it, making it beefy. And what ended up happening is Null didn't use any specials that fight, so that second L2 actually pushed him to 3 bars. Now, if that second L2 didn't kill him, Null would have used an L3, you would have had your controls reversed because the L3 instantly puts a corruption on you, and that would have been game over. I have no doubt in my mind about that. And so, as I said earlier, I had to completely change up the strategy for that fight. Now, that's what I think is so important about rank 4s in so many cases, is they can completely change how you play a fight. They can change it from being like maybe a pseudo nuke, which is what I normally think of Shang-Chi as, to just an outright nuke, being able to just work your way up to an L2 and end it right there. Now, of course, you also have the more apparent, more obvious benefits that a rank 4 stat increase gives you: extra health, extra attack. Extra attack obviously feeding into my nuke point I made just now, but extra health meaning you can actually take a hit or two without dying. Shang-Chi, for example, he doesn't have the largest health pool. And so getting that health increase in combination with boosts you normally use in war. So for the most part, I'd say that'd probably be like a 20-30% champ boost, as well as maybe a 15-20% health boost. That's going to make him pretty beefy, and that's going to allow him to take a lot of punishment before he is actually dead. So I do feel like rank 4s in general, but very much in Shang-Chi's case, in terms of you being able to use him as a nuke, I do feel that they very much can turn the tide of a fight.
Alright,
Yeah.
very, very interesting. Thank you for popping on call and talking about this. And
Yeah,
well,
no
the final
problem, no worries.
question would be, are you happy about this R4 decision? Of course, it's an R4 in your battle group, but I can fairly
Yeah.
assume what you're gonna say. And yeah, be sure to check out Fel's links in the description. They'll be linked under his time code for this Shang-Chi
Thank you so
segment.
much.
Yep. Have a great day.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, same to you, bud.
Hey guys, here we have DLL on for this R4 discussion video. He is another officer in SSx, and he has an R4 read that he's been using a lot. He has a variety of great war videos, champ reviews, and other content on his channel. It will be in a link below the time code for this segment in the description. So yeah, the first question I have for you is, how has your R4 read impacted the planning process?
Well, the biggest thing is that it's made it like that much easier to send with confidence, to send like to multiple fights in a row. And there actually have been a couple times where maybe in previous seasons, I would have sent somebody else or used a different champion because I thought they lined up maybe 10% better. And this season, I've just used Reed and blown through it without thinking too much because he has that much extra power. And it's just simplified things for me, because then I can get both him and other champions like Nimrod or Killmonger. I often end up taking like specialist type of paths. And so it's made me more flexible, and I think that's helped the battle group overall quite a bit.
Yep. So on these specialist fights, what are some of these main specialist fights and pain points you've been using Reed for to help smooth along?
Well, the biggest one is definitely Power Snack. I think all season there was one Power Snack node that I didn't take with Reed, because he's just a hard counter to almost everyone who gets placed there. Basically, any rank 4 Doom we saw that he could take, I took with him. I handled a lot of the more troublesome power gain fights, some of the scarier mystics like Longshot or Tigra on 6A. I take Power Snack with him, Strike Counter with him a fair amount. Those are just all things that tend to line up really well for him.
Alright. And are there any fights you think having that Reed at R4 has been the difference of, keeping the fight smooth, or maybe life and death for a specific fight?
I don't think it's been life or death, because most of the fights I've taken, I took with him at rank 3 and survived. But there was one time in season 30 where I took like a Penny Parker on Power Snack and ate a full special 2 from her and came very close to dying. And Reed survived. And I've taken her now twice with him as a rank 4. And I definitely feel like not only did I not make the mistake, but it was easier to avoid the mistake, because I got like set up faster thanks to the increased power rate. I was hitting harder. I was taking less block damage. It just felt super safe.
All right, and I have another question for Reed in specific that I'm sure will help the viewers out a lot. In this last season, with a lot of the 26 Doom placements, we know those Reed pre-fights have been more important than ever. So has having this R4 impacted, delving out those pre-fights at all?
Yeah, it's been a huge deal. There was one war where I forget the exact number now, but we gave out almost 30 pre-fights from Reed, because most of them were from mine, and about half of those I was using for Reed himself or my team. But after taking like 5 fights with my team, the last one being with him, he was back at 9. And then I gave out all 9 to smooth mini boss fights, and we had 2 other rank 3 Reeds in the field, I think one of which fought and then gave out pre-fights, and the other one that was just being used for pre-fights. But so, like, being actually able to take fights with these champions can end up giving you a lot of power on the field.
All right, and for the final question I have, are you happy with your R4 decision?
Extremely, yeah. I used him in every single war all season. He wasn't always the one taking the most fights, but he was usually taking one of the worst fights and doing really well with it. He's been fine for my prestige. There are obviously better champs for that, and I just love using him.
All right, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate
Sure thing.
talking about this with you. And again, check out DLL's channel. He has a bunch of great videos. It'll be under the time code for this section. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, really. Thanks for having me on.
All right. See you, man. Have a good day.
You too.
Hey guys, so I will be talking about Hercules for this segment. Since my battle group has a lot of R4 Hercules, I've been assigning for him, And we have 3 R4 Hercules last season, and this season it's looking like we have 4. Some things may change before the season, but likely going to be 4 R4 Hercules going in the next season. And the main important thing I want to mention before I get into the base question sets for Hercules is having a lot of R4 Hercules means he is going to get banned a lot. Last season we had 3 wars where Hercules was not banned, so that means he was banned in 8 of the 11 wars, which definitely limits how much you're actually going to use Hercules if he's banned almost every single war. And yeah, that's important to keep in mind when discussing this. So the first thing is, how does Hercules affect the planning process? And like I mentioned, having so many R4 Hercules means he's going to be banned. And I actually really like that he gets banned, personally, because I'm not someone who relies on Hercules a lot in my planning. So having Hercules take up one of the 3 ban slots instead of someone like a Ghost or an Apocalypse. Instead of someone like a Doom or Apocalypse, Ghost and Torch were banned, I believe, literally every war last season. So having Hercules get banned instead of a Doom or an Apocalypse or a Corvus, or something that really might impact my planning a lot personally, has been very nice. So having those R4 Hercs, even when they don't get used, just because having so many means he gets banned, has actually helped the planning process pretty significantly, honestly. I'm not saying that's going to be true for everyone. I know everyone plans differently. There are planners that definitely rely a lot more on Herc, and for them this might be a negative. For me personally, it's a positive. And yeah, for the second thing, what are some of the main problem fights Herc's getting used for? One of the big ones I noticed in the wars when Herc wasn't banned was MODOK boss. I believe in 2 of those wars the MODOK boss was placed, and it really just made the most sense to send a Hercules instead of a Corvus or a Killmonger. And having an R4 gives a really nice boost for that fight in specific, because of the extra combat power rate specifically. This lets you keep your auto block counter up from the L1s a lot, and it of course just gives you a lot more damage from the rank and health, which is very, very nice. And yeah, MODOK boss is one of the main ones. Another one that we had during the season was these Path 6 fights, where they get prowess if where if they get prowess, they go unblockable on their special attacks. Something like Apocalypse and Storm Pyramid X, Herc worked really well for with prior ramp to just end the fight before any of it really became a worry. And another one that we did only once was Footloose Green Goblin. We had some Mr. F pre-fights attached, and Hercules was able to just fairly safely nuke it down without much of a worry, and this allowed us to avoid having to boss rush to take high ground down for this Green Goblin, which was really helpful for the planning again. Now, for the third question, it would be, are there any fights where the R4 really made a significant difference, like you think it would have been life or death without the R4? And there were really no fights that got sketch with the R4, but I do think the Footloose Green Goblin could have gone very poorly with an R3, because if you didn't end the fight so quickly, then the fight would have actual mechanics. I'm not saying it would have been a death or anything, but it would have been significantly more difficult. And I can't speak on if any of the R4 Hercs are happy with it, because I know some are, some aren't, so I think the majority of the R4 Hercs are happy, but yeah. And that will be all for this Hercules segment.
Rock on.
Hey guys, for this part of the R4 discussion video, now we have Campo on. He is another officer in SSx that has a YouTube channel of his own, has a bunch of great war videos and some great champion reviews, and he has an R4 Apocalypse that we will be discussing today. So, the first question I have for you today is, how has the R4 Apocalypse affected your planning process?
Well, we actually are lucky enough to have 2 rank 4 Apocalypse in our battle group, so it's sort of just like an embarrassment of riches. And I won't say that he's like the first person that we try to assign, but he definitely has some places where if he works, he's the best champion. You know, like I'm thinking specifically the new Node 26 or like, you know, Path 2B or something like that with Hard Knock Life. So we definitely, I wouldn't say like he's the first person we go to, but we definitely are always looking at the map like, oh yeah, Apocalypse can just totally wreck that. And the fact that he has, when he's fully boosted, over 80k health, it just really makes it easy to take some risks with him and try to put him in different places that, you know, you would think of the conventional ones, but then you're like, yeah, maybe we can stretch him a little bit and put him over here, and it'll just sort of solve another problem.
Alright, yep. So on these problem fights, you mentioned Node 26. Could you give some specific of these pain points with placements there?
Yeah, definitely. Well, you know, we were seeing obviously Ghost and Torch were being banned pretty exclusively this season. And so because of that, a lot of people were putting their rank 4 Dr. Dooms on Node 26. And that used to be encroaching stun, but now it has defective defense, which basically means as you take any blocked hits, not even parries, like just straight up blocked hits, you're going to get disorient debuffs all over you. And then on top of that, it has that node where if you have a debuff on you, they also get, you know, like an attack boost. So you put Dr. Doom there, he's going to be destroying you through the block. And, you know, playing him contactless is not exactly an easy thing. So the fact that you can just take one blocked hit with Apocalypse and then within 8 seconds you're disorient immune, it just completely takes that aspect out of the node. And then all you have to deal with is window of opportunity. So I just feel like that disorient immunity isn't even the main thing about Apocalypse, but the fact that he has it, it just sort of solves 2 areas of the map for me.
Are there any fights this season that you felt the R4 has either saved you from life or death, or saved you from, a fight getting out of your control or sketch or anything like that?
Well, there was one fight where it ended up, it was originally not assigned to me, and I almost died. But the fact that it was an R4 is really the reason I didn't die. And this was actually Hulk on Node 20, which, that has the shocks that can build up, and it also has strike counter. And normally I think I could have played it fine, but I kind of messed up and let the strike counter get out of control, which in turn meant that the shocks were hitting really hard. And just the fact that he was rank 4 meant that I had all that health to play with. And then fortunately, the concussion stopped the regen at the very end of the fight. And it was just one of those moments as a planner and a fighter where I went into the fight and things started getting out of control. And I was like, oh boy, this could go south. But just having those extra stats saved it, and then it saved us a death. And we didn't have to pay for our little planning mistake. And by our, I mean mine.
Alright, yep. Always very nice to get those clutch saves. And yeah, are you happy with your 0-4 decision?
Yeah, I definitely am, and I did agonize over it a little bit because I also have Dr. Doom and stuff, and for most people, if prestige mattered, you would just go that way because he's sort of the best combination of both. But I don't know. There was something about Apocalypse that I also have Archangel rank 3. I also have Cable rank 3. It just kind of seemed like the right choice. And, I could take him to SIG 200 and everything. And I don't think I was the main Apocalypse player until I ranked him up. But I definitely got to use him a lot. And it was some of the most fun I've had in a while in Alliance War. So, yeah, no regrets from me, for sure.
Alright, awesome. Very interesting stuff. Be sure to check out Campo's channel in the description under his timecode. There will be a link to his channel. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, the dude has a lot of health. He can get around shrugging. I mean, he's got the immunities. He's got debuffs. He's got ways to get around safeguard. He's just an absolute tank. So, yeah, Apocalypse. And he also has the current attack tactic of power down as well. So we didn't even get to that. So just so much utility and tankiness and attack that, yeah, no regrets here. Amazing rank 4, and thanks for inviting me over, man.
Alright, thanks for coming on, man. Have a great day.
Alright, you too.
Hey guys, today we have Agent on for this R4 discussion part now. He is an officer over in GT40 and he does have a YouTube channel with some old clips. I don't think he's actively uploading anymore, but I will leave a link to his channel in the description below the timecode for this. And yeah, so the first question I have for you is, how has having this R4 Archangel in your battle group affected the war planning process?
That's a really good question. Now, Archangel is an amazing champion. One member in my battle group, Lord Prime, took him up to rank 4. It was Archangel or Apocalypse. I'd say it's really hard between them, which one is better. They're both really, really good, very useful. Apocalypse probably has a little bit more versatility, but since Poco wasn't duped, he decided to go with the duped Archangel, because, why not? And Archangel's amazing. It really has affected the war planning process in a good way, but also in a bad way for me, because we like to use at least 2 horsemen Archangels per battle group. We didn't have Archangel banned really rarely in war, which was really great for us because we abuse him a lot. We used him for basically a lot of the mini bosses, Mixmaster, Power Snack, and that's where we got to ramp him. We'd get someone else to bring Apocalypse, place the horseman pre-fight on 22 or 23, and that would be great because then they'd go in with Archangel and then just the fight lasts 20 seconds. And once you get rank 4 horseman Archangel, he just melts everything, and I mean everything. One of the only issues I had with this was his time zone compared to mine. So he is in Europe and I am PST, so when he would be waking up, it'd be 9:30-ish, sometimes 10, and then sometimes I'd have to do my section 2 in the morning, and this caused my battle group to clear late because I'm PST.
Alright, thank you for that segment. So for the next question I have for you today, talking on some of these specific problem nodes, what are the main pain points around the map you guys have been using the R4 Archangel to solve?
That's a good question, and to be honest, it's really a lot of the mini bosses that we used them for. 51 Longshot, 51 Doom, we always saw a lot of that, Rage Guardian or whatever. And even on the aspect of evolution power game mini, Doctor Strange, Sorcerer, etc., we use Archangel for because just pop an invul and he just melts them so fast. His DPS is just absolutely it's disgusting. Fights 47 Mojo and 46 Surfer, which seem to kill quite often, we used him for as well, and he just got so many kills. And obviously just power snacking, mixed master. Sometimes we'd see, Archangel stuff there. Like last season, mixed master Nova, we saw that quite often.
All right, yep. Are there any fights you think the R4 saved you from life or death, or keeping the fight in control and not getting sketched?
It's a good question. Honestly, not really compared to a rank 3 with a horseman, but sometimes we used him without horsemen because we needed to, just because of planning issues going because we used 2 of them. But when we used the rank 4, we actually used him for 47 mojo, so the kinetic one, as without horsemen. And with the rank 4, honestly, it was quite a bit of a difference between the rank 3 just because of the extra health and attack. So even like non-horsemen, like the rank 4 really made that fight really easy.
All right, thank you, man. Is there anything else you'd like to add real quick?
Well, honestly, throughout time, I've always seen people saying Archangel doesn't need more than rank 4 as a 5-star, like back then. But really, even like if you have a chance to take your Archangel as a 6-star up to rank 4, I wouldn't. You know what? I'd say go for it. Go for it. He's an amazing champion. Of course, you'll have some better options there here and there. Just depends on your battle group, whether you're war focused, AQ focused. But if you have a chance, I absolutely say go ahead and do it. He's an amazing champion.
All right, thanks, man. And the last question doesn't really apply to you. It's, are you happy with the R4 decision? But of course, it's in your battle group. But do you know if the R4 Archangel is happy with their R4 Archangel?
You know what? He is quite happy with that rank 4 Archangel. I've never seen him complain about it, and he uses Archangel every war, so I'd say he's happy with it.
All right, thanks for hopping on, man. Again, agents links will be in the description below the time code, and have a great day, man. Thank you for hopping on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, so for this part in the R4 segment, I have Stranz on. He is a buddy in Battle Group 3 of SSx. He recently started up a YouTube channel showcasing some great war videos, including his R4 Spider 99 that we will be talking about today. So go check out his channel. There will be a link in the description below the time code for this segment. So the first question I have for you is, have you noticed the R4 Spider 99 has really impacted the war planning process at all?
Well, the first part of that is I'm not involved in the war planning process.
Yeah.
We have BG officers, so I think DLL and Campo, those guys do most of the planning. I do notice that with an R4, I can kind of assume which paths and fights I'm going to get just with my relationship with DLL. So a lot of times when the war map opens up, I'll just take a quick glance at it and I'll be like, okay, I'm on 7 in section 2 because I just see those fights line up for Spider 99. Okay, I'm on there's a Mojo boss. Like immediately, that's my fight. So it's not because, it's because Spider-Man 2099 is the best matchup for a Mojo boss and for a Mangog on 54 and all those things, and it's also partly because I have an anti-venom at rank 3 as well. My roster kind of matches up for certain fights. So I'm not sure if it's because, I'm sure part of it's because of the R4 rank and part of it's because of some other factors as well.
Right. On these specific pain points, what are some of the main pain points and problem fights that Spider 99 has been getting used for in war?
Well, the thing is, for them, okay, so the pain points that I had with 2099, I got to those before he was rank 4 because I was using him as a rank 3. I think some of them were, knowing that in theory he'll work for a fight, but not being able to practice. Like, so for example, at some point I got assigned a Venom on Rich Get Richer node. It's like section 2 path 8. Right? It's the node where if the defender has more buffs than you, they start gaining power like really fast. And in theory, with a Wither up at the beginning of the fight, with the anti-venom synergy, like it shouldn't be a problem because the Wither will reduce the passive power gain from the node. But there's nowhere to practice that node outside of the AW map. So I think a lot of the pain points were more mental pain points on that, and getting past. We're trying this in theory, or like you can duel a Venom all you want, but like you can't duplicate the power gain from that node and know that it's going to work. Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense. I mean, I meant more like as in what are some of the toughest fights on the map that Spider-Man has been getting mainly used for?
Toughest fights. I don't know if it's necessarily nodes, because look, DLL and Campo are really good at trying to get us best matchups, so you never really have a terrible matchup. But where Spider-Man gets tripped up is more defenders that are difficult to dex, right? So much of his kit revolves around pausing your debuffs and dexing, that when you get defenders that are difficult to dex, or you have to block their specials instead of dexing their specials, that starts to get more difficult. Or you have a node where dexing causes problems. I think the hardest fight I had, I think it's node 51 on the mini boss, where it was a Mojo, and it was, is it Conflictor, where it eats the next buff every 7 seconds?
Yep, the Conflictor and Combat Deja Vu Prowess.
Yeah, so that was the toughest fight I was assigned last season with an R4, and it's on my channel, and it's honestly, Mojo's not a hard fight, 2099, because you don't have to worry about any of the degen, you don't have to worry about any of the Mystic Dispersion. So the two hardest parts about Mojo are already dealt with. The problem becomes you can't get buffs up consistently. It's hard to get the ruptures up. Like one of the, the next level ways to play Spider-Man 29 is to play with the ruptures, and almost Quake style. Not Quake style in that you're just dexing everything, but hitting block and not having the opponent generate power is kind of the most, I would say, the most elegant way to play him. And you couldn't do that because couldn't get a wither up, so that was the hardest fight. The Conflictor. Anything that eats debuffs is difficult.
Yep. On this similar topic, are there any fights you've noticed where you think if you had the R3, you either would have died or had the fight become significantly more sketchy?
Well, the first thing to note is that I faced a couple R4 Dooms with him, and Doom just hits so hard in the block that might have turned out worse if it was an R3. And like all the Spider-Men, he has a small health pool, so anything where you're taking a lot of hits on block is going to be, going to cause issues. And so yeah, but you really, at the end of the day, you don't want to be taking too many blocks anyway. You'd rather be dexing those hits.
All right. And the final question I have for you today is, are you happy with your R4 decision?
Absolutely. I don't have, no regrets. I don't have any regrets on it. I think, when I finally formed all the tier 3 alpha and tier 6 basic to make an R4 decision, I chatted with DLL. I think I chatted with Rob Hop as well. I had a couple of different options. It was right around, it was at Black Friday. It was on the Black Friday deals. So I had the Sig Stones to take a bunch of different champs up. And I talked to DLL, and I talked about like Silver Centurion. Of course, I talked about like Doom. I'm not a huge Doom fan. I understand his value. I talked about Surfer because he's already Sig 200. But at the end of the day, we had just started using 2099 in War. We had just started doing Mojo bosses on a regular. And at that time, back in, it seems like forever ago, November, Mojo bosses were pretty much the most common boss we saw. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah.
So it was definitely handling a big issue with Torch being banned. Spider-Man 2099 is I think even without Torchband, Spider-Man 2099 is a better matchup for a Mojo boss, or really a Mojo almost anywhere on the map. That's just my opinion. So no, the short answer is no. I don't have any regrets.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Geez, is there anything else that I'd like to add? I hadn't thought this bonus question through. I think that your first R4 is an important decision, but it's not the end all be all, right? Like at some point, the R4 materials are going to open up, and we're going to be able to, like have 30 R4s on our roster, like we do R3s now. So if I was, when people message me or when we're in chat and people are talking about their R4 decisions, my feeling is don't stress out about it too much. And I say that as someone who's stressed out about it a lot, but you're going to make a decision. There are very few wrong decisions. I'm not going to say there's no wrong decisions, but the champs that you have at SIG 200 or can take to SIG 200, there's no wrong decisions, and it should be good.
Yeah, I completely agree. I noticed a lot of people stressing out about it too much, especially like with 7.4 coming up. We're probably going to be getting multiple R4s pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for hopping on and talking with me. I'll leave a link to Stranz's channel again in the description below the time code for this. And yeah, have a great day, man.
Oh, man, you too.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this R4 discussion video. Big shout out to everyone that was involved in making this video. All of the links will be in the description, of course. And yeah, I think that a little bit at the end with Stranz was a good way to end this. Just make sure to, with 7.4 coming up, you really shouldn't be stressing your rank 4s too much. They are, they're nice to have overall, definitely very nice to have, but, I've noticed a lot of people really just completely stressing over who to R4, and I really don't think it's necessary, because, there are very few bad R4 decisions, of course, unless you're in that, like, top 10, top 20 maybe AQ push, and then you just have your choice very obviously cut out for you. But yeah, and hopefully I could help you guys get some information to make your R4 decision, and yeah.